Hi, this is Doug, and I'm going to show you how to do the standard deviation using technology. Now, I'm going to show you guys a kind of semi-manual version first. It'll kind of mimic the way you would do it by hand if you were drawing out a table in order to calculate standard deviation. I want to show you that way first, and then we can check our answers with the built-in functions in Google Sheets. And then I think that might take a while, so I might end up doing just a separate video for doing it in the calculator. Okay, so first off, as you can see here, I've already got my data set and the mean. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is make another column, and this will be x minus x bar. Now, what x bar is representing is the mean of a sample. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the other version of this, which would be x minus mu, just so that we can kind of see that the differences here. So mu is going to be the standard deviation, or sorry, mu is going to be the mean of a population. And you'll go over in class what that means. So let me go ahead and just make this look nice. Center that there. Okay, so x is representing each one of these values individually, and then we're subtracting the mean from those values. So in this case up here, we're assuming that this data set is part of a population, but not the whole population. So we're working with a sample at the moment. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is equals this minus this. Oops, thought I should have been able to click that. So that first x value minus the mean. And we want to repeat this process for each of these, but we have the mean value here. And what happens if I copy and paste is we're actually, I guess it's reading this as 1, which is, or no, it's, yeah, it's looking at this as if it's 0, and it's 36 minus 0. So what we want is it to still be using the mean up here. So we're going to adjust this formula up here and put a $sign before the column name and the row name. And now if we plug that in, now we're sticking with B2 all the way down. So we can just copy and paste this all the way down. And as you can see, the left side of this equation is changing, going down the rows, but the B2 is staying the same. All right. So next, what we want is to square this. And what we can do is just equals the previous column. We'll do a caret 2 to square it. And we'll copy that all the way down. Next step is going to be to sum all of these values. All right. So we'll just go ahead and use the sum function. There we go. Next, we need to take the, sorry, we're not taking the square root yet. We are going to basically take the mean of these values. And so this is called the variance. And we'll go ahead and take this number and divide it by, in this case, we're working with a sample. So it's going to be the n, which is the total number of values that we have, minus 1. So in this case, that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. or 6 minus 1 is 5. All right, and there's our variance. And next, from there, we can get the standard deviation. And let me go ahead and specify that this is for a sample for both of these. Okay. And so the next step would just be to take the square root of the variance. And there we go. We've got 32.004 and so on. One neat little trick to be aware of is if you need to get values to a specific decimal place, you can just select the value or values that you may be working with. And up here, there's a decrease decimal places button, and you can decrease to whatever number of decimal places you want, and then also increase it. Okay, so let's go ahead and just put this down to 3 decimal places. All right, so that's the standard deviation of a sample. Now, if we want to do the same thing for a population, the steps are very similar. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and go through these. So x minus, in this case, we're going to say that the same data set, but actually it's a population. So we're going to subtract the mu from each of the x values. So far it's going to be the same here. Right? Oops, did one extra. All right, and we are going to copy this as well. And this should be the same also. And here's where it changes. And standard deviation population. Okay, so instead of dividing this previous number by n minus 1, it's just going to be divided by n. So in this case, we'll get that number and divide it by 6. And so that gives us the population variance, and the population standard deviation will just be the square root of the variance. All right, so as you can see, they're a little bit different. And depending on what you're looking at, they might be potentially very different. All right, and so we could check our work with standard deviation function here. And we'll just input this entire list. And as you can see, you get the sample standard deviation. Now, if you had to find the population standard deviation and went straight into using this function, you would have gotten the wrong answer because you would be getting the sample standard deviation. So it's good to be aware of what's happening. Google Sheets is pretty nice because it actually has at least 3 different standard deviation functions. So let's go ahead and put standard dev sample here, and put the population here. And so instead of just doing the standard deviation function, we can do standard deviation, and there's one that's .s for the sample. And let's go ahead and put these in there. All right. And we can do standard deviation with the p, and that'll give us the population standard deviation. All right, so be aware of that, and I'll make another video for the calculator functions. Thank you.